So if you're a CPG brand with a lot of products, the last thing you want to do at a buyer meeting, especially at ECRM when you have 10 or 20 minutes, is slowly walk through every single product until the buyer's eyes start glazing over. Instead, you want to be a little bit more focused. And with me today is Emily Ann Page, founder of Start to Sold, CPG growth strategy consultancy. And she's going to tell us how to actually get that focus and how to, when you have a lot of products, to really cut through the clutter and get the message out that's important for the buyer to know. So thanks for joining us. And to start off, why do brands tend to do this, right? They feel they got to go through everything.
It's a good question, Joe. I think it's because we love our product. So first of all, we get so excited and passionate about what we have. And number two, we get nervous. So we forget to prioritize in the middle of a 20, 10, or 5-minute pitch to a retailer. And the problem with this is that when we're getting too excited, we actually can burn through the time too fast. And also, Joe, we all today have a shorter and shorter attention span. So we are now in a TikTok generation. So a retail buyer can't possibly remember all 20 of the products in your catalog. And on top of that, they are meeting with you, and immediately after that meeting, they have another meeting with a different but similar brand. ECRM provides lots of amazing opportunities to meet people, and so they are really busy all day long meeting brands and evaluating them. So you think they're gonna remember your 20 SKUs plus the 20 SKUs of the next person? It's probably not gonna happen.
So I guess the challenge is, it's like, you know, we all love all of our kids, right? They don't want to pick favorites. But the problem is, not all of those kids are the right ones for a particular buyer. So, you know, so what should they do? I mean, why is it a bad idea to just throw everything out? You kind of touched on that, but, you know, how do they narrow the focus down?
It's a very good question. So it takes strategy. The first step is you need to research your retailer before the meetings. And this happens a week in advance at least. The very good news is ECRM makes it super easy. They allow for you to do research. When you pay for an ECRM session, you log into their dashboard and you can click around, look at the website, look at the things expressly are interested, that buyer said they're expressly interested in. So they usually disclose some of this in advance. Now, if that buyer didn't take the time to carefully outline specifically what they want, you of course need to ask questions when you're in the middle of that session. And I would suggest kick things off by asking that kind of a question. You can ask that buyer what they're looking for, and that will help you to narrow things down and get really focused, because of course they're not going to buy something if they're not interested in it. So use the time wisely and narrow it down.
Great, and I think that's really important, what he said, the research ahead of time, because you can find out. So even if the buyer wasn't too specific in the information they put in the ECRM portal, you could still do your own research and you check out the stores. Especially if you could get into the stores, you could kind of get a sense of who their target market is. If you see old premium products and you have a bunch of value products, well, you know they're not going to be interested in those, or vice versa. So, you know, the types of products, the types of packaging, you can, you know, the types of markets that they're in, that all that information can help you kind of whittle down what you present.
God, Joe, it's such a great point. I mean, why not go to the retail store? So let's say you're pitching to Whole Foods. Why don't you walk into Whole Foods and actually take pictures of that product category? You personally will learn so much information about who your competition is just by looking at the store shelves. And then when the buyer brings this information up, you really understand why they said what they said. You might even be able to tailor your pitch to be a little bit more accurate. So you could say things like, you know, I know that the average price point of your products is this and this, and we fall right between these two. And so you can actually sound like an educated, safe, a trustable, professional brand. So I think it's great.
Yeah, and there's one brand that I spoke with, a beauty brand. She has 3 different levels of products, right? Premium, she'll have the mid-tier, and then she'll have the value. And she'll go into the meeting and she knows this is not good for retailer X, but it's good for retailer Y. And that's all she will focus on, is only the ones. And then look, that's what RangeMe's for. It's like, here's my link. If you're a RangeMe Premium, you send them the link afterwards and you say, look, I'm gonna show you these because based on my research, they're the most relevant for you, but you could see everything else if you just go to my RangeMe profile.
That's a great idea.
So, and then you could be more dramatic. There was another brand, and this was kind of cool, and you can make it as dramatic as you want, but she has a lot of products. So she was in this boat that you were talking about, and knows that it would be too overwhelming to go through all of them in a 10 or 20 minute meeting. So she just asked the buyer sitting across from her, said, tell me which of the products on the table you are absolutely not interested in. And then as that buyer pointed to them, boom, she moved them to the side. So me, I would just throw them off the table, make a dramatic flair, they'll remember. But anyway, the point is she immediately focused the meeting,
Right.
and focused it in a way that was relevant to that single buyer. So, and she said it worked very well because they spent more time on the products that they were interested in.
God, it's such a great case study. And we can all think of moments where we've had a conversation with someone who tells you things you don't care about. And it's a waste of time. But the truth is, out of politeness, you'll usually sit there and let the person continue talking, especially if you don't know them very well.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be missing huge cues from your buyer that they're not interested in all of these items. In fact, you described what it looks like. Their eyes can glaze over and they're just staring at you blankly. Yeah. But they've already decided they're probably not going to buy because you didn't professionally approach the meeting by sussing out the things that they really cared about and directing the pitch to their interests and solving their number one pain point, which is the whole point of this pitch. It's not just to sell every product into that store, it's to find the right buyer for the product where it will succeed.
Yeah, and another tactic I've seen is they'll have a handful of products on the table that they know are relevant for the buyer, but they'll have all their products on the display table behind them. And then they'll have the conversation and they'll say, we also have these, if you want to take a quick look, if anything jumps out at you, let me know. So,
God, what a great idea, Joe.
Yep.
You got a lot up in there, some good tips.
Well, I've just watched a bunch of meetings and I've seen those retailers, the buyer's eyes glaze over at some point. But I think it all comes down to that point you made right at the beginning. The buyer's having 30, 40, 50, 60 meetings within a few days. You can't overwhelm them. You have to be focused and you want to be memorable. So, and the way you're memorable is by being completely relevant. So I think that's the really important point.
We might have really helped everybody here, Joe. Aren't you glad?
I'm hoping we did. So anybody who wants to find out some more information, learn some more tips and tricks from Emily, you can find her at starttosold.net. Plus, we do a lot of content together. She's on LinkedIn, she's on Instagram, everywhere. So
I also have some ECRM videos where I teach about how to do a good pitch. So you can watch those. They're for free, but they're only available when you're a member of ECRM and RangeMe on the dashboard.
excellent. Well, thank you again, and you're going to see a bunch more videos coming from us soon.